Okay, guys, we're live. We'll see how this goes. It's might be a little sketchy. We'll see. We got TL from Tennessee. He's going to give us a update on the flooding from the hurricane and all that. And I imagine it's Tennessee and North Carolina. And we got Chris is driving. He's been doing some long distance dog breeding. He's on his way back from. Well, he left Indiana, hit New Mexico, picked up a dog, and he is currently right outside of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I'm just west of Oklahoma City. I left the house yesterday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Got to Paloma today at around noon, around 11 o'clock. And 12 o'clock their time, I was already headed back east.
Yeah,
This this is one of the dumbest things I've done in a while.
he's so dedicated. He didn't even want to pull over to do the podcast for an hour. Just don't wreck because it'll be gross on here. But let's get into it. TL, why don't you get into it? Kind of give us an update on kind of the general conditions and maybe touch on uh, the relief efforts that you and Chris set up and how that's going, and just kind of give us an overview of what's going on over there because we get news, but like I watch it on the news, but I don't really know. I don't really know how that's going. I'd rather talk to some dude on the ground.
Okay. Well, Chris asked me about coming on tonight, and I wanted to start out by just saying thank you to everyone that sent stuff. It was an incredible logistic effort from all over America through different channels in the Appalachians. And I would love to have a way to know how it compares to logistical things that have happened through history because I don't know that any military or any government could pull off what has happened here in 7 days. Literally, so much stuff come into Appalachia that every contact that I have is overwhelmed with emergency supplies. I don't even know where to put it. And up every little holler, every little nook and cranny stuff has been taken. Now, that's not to say there's not still needs. It's just the initial emergency stuff has been overwhelming. There'll be lots of needs for a long time.
Oh, probably years, probably.
Yeah. Yep. Where I was at, you know, here in East Tennessee, there were several people killed. There was a lot more people killed on the North Carolina side, and I'm not sure how many people are still missing. The numbers sort of change all the time, and you're not quite sure. The biggest problem here has been misinformation. It's really crippled man hours and consumed time, and so social media has been awesome for the positive part. It's also allowed a lot of misinformation to create havoc. But I think some of that's dying down because people stop sharing the posts, about needs here, needs there. And then you'd run there and there wouldn't actually be a problem. And then where there was problems, maybe nobody knew because it was overwhelmed with something there was an issue with. So that's just part of it, I guess. But the hound part was just absolutely awesome. Uh, that Amazon thing was so overwhelming that our post office called and said, "Hey, can you guys help us here? That little woman that delivers out in this country couldn't handle it, so we started having to send a truck or a vehicle into the post office for several days, twice a day, to pick up stuff, and then." After we get the stuff at the post office, then UPS and FedEx they would run and bring stuff, and it's been amazing. It's just incredible how much stuff people have sent in, and all the people it's gotten to, and all the people it's helped. And of course, you're probably aware of the article that the Blaze TV people, they called me and wanted to do that deal, and they were fascinated by the houndsman angle on it. And I'll tell you this too: I talked to several people on the phone, and who just were like really impressed by the hound people getting involved. And I tried to emphasize that to a lot of folks. And churches, local churches, and the hound people in a combination really helped my community, and I'm very grateful for it.
Was there anything? I mean, you said you're kind of overrun with stuff, like emergency supplies. But what are your needs right now, so that people know? I mean, I assume you're past like
Well,
bottled water and all that, but
yeah, the initial stuff like you need within the first 72 hours is pretty well taken care of. What's going on now is basically people continuing to clean up. Um, and thankfully, here in Appalachia, we didn't sit around on our hind ends waiting for the government to show up, because that didn't happen. Everybody here, when daylight broke Saturday morning, every neighbor in this country that had a neighbor in need was across the road and down the hill to where somebody had need. And I mean, within the first day, the houses that got hit were covered up by neighbors that didn't. Every imaginable piece of equipment. They hauled stuff in here with trucks, planes, even mule teams were going into the mountains taking stuff where the roads were broke down. One guy even took stuff in by goats. And then, a farmer across the road that, had a backhoe or a skid steer or something, he would be going up the street. There were some local guys here with all of our bridges got shut down. We were landlocked there for a while, and local guys started just going down, opening up the roads, opening up the bridges as best they could. And in one county, they told the private citizens, good, have at it. And then in another county, they basically told the people to back off, but it all got done. And
yeah, I mean that's one thing about
right,
disasters like that is lots of times it does bring out the best in people. You see what
mm-hmm.
sometimes that brings out bad too, but overwhelmingly, I think it brings out the good.
Well, I won't mention his name because
Especially,
he probably wouldn't want me to. But a young guy that bear hunts with my son lives over in North Carolina in an area that got really hit hard. And this boy's he's a real hard bear hunter. And he told me, he said, Mr. TL, he said, I see people, that really wouldn't have nothing to do with each other, and now they're out helping each other. And we joked and said, last week they wouldn't even say hi to each other at the store, and now they're across the road risking their lives to save each other.
yeah. I mean, it's not a good thing that this kind of thing happens, but it does put everything in perspective.
Let's talk about that Blaze News article a little bit, because I think that's a big deal for what we're trying to do as a hound hunting segment of the hunting community. I think that's a huge deal for us to be able to get that kind of press on a stage as big as Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck's one of those old school guys that was around in the Rush Limbaugh days and all that, and for his staff to pick it up and run with it was pretty amazing, and it gives us a lot of positive press.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's one thing that we
did.
I mean, that's one thing we lack is as hound hunters, dog hunters. Like, we don't get a whole lot of that mainstream media, or if we do get mainstream media publicity, it's usually not good.
It's always mischaracterized if we get it.
Yeah. So that was a big deal.
And
it was a big deal, and that article was a big deal, and and I know you want to keep talking about it, but I'll tell you, in addition to that, I had the opportunity to have personal conversations with several politicians, and like Congressman James Rowe called to check on us. And I didn't know the man. Somebody else gave my name to him, and he called personally to check on us, and I was able to tell him, hound people stepped up, and all these guys were, that's good, because next time something comes up in the state of Tennessee about houndsmen, they're going to remember that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how to characterize that. houndsmen are kind of like the grunts, of the hunting community. The Sitka wearing sheep hunters are kind of like the Air Force. They sit up. They are.
You just got to make people mad, don't you?
He does. He does.
I saw it. You pull into an Air Force base, and it's like you're on R&R or Liberty. Hot chow and air conditioning, showers, the whole 9 yards. Tents in the desert with AC and heat units, and they all got issued foam pads for their cocks. And us grunts, we were glad to see that. But houndsmen are like the grunts. I mean, we get in there, we get it done. We know what needs to be done, and it's been pretty impressive from my side. The messages, the emails, what can I do? How can I help? It's just been it's been unbelievable.
Yeah, it has been logistic. Well, I shouldn't say logistically. Just Saturday morning when daylight broke. And of course, before daylight broke, the linemen were already out from the north side of the river and on the south side too, trying to get the electric back up. The water people, see, we had so many bridges taken out. The water lines and power lines crossed where the bridges crossed. So when the bridge went, the water line, the power line went. So within 7 days, they have almost everybody's power on. They have almost everybody's electric on in my county. The churches brought in the food and the supplies and all that. And I mean, this was the single greatest natural disaster that has ever taken place in the Appalachian Mountains. And it got stabilized in about 5 days.
Yeah.
By the people it got stabilized.
By the people, that's the important thing. How much do you think that threatens all these politicians and elected officials you've talked to at high levels? Have you got any feeling that that's a threat to them at all?
Not to the ones that would talk to me, because the ones that would talk to me would be for us. We're extremely fortunate in Tennessee that we're a bright red state, truly conservative state, and 90 to 95% of our representatives are going to want to help us. You got some Nashville type people that would rather be down there eating a $50 steak and having a party than be up here with a shovel. But our state reps, for the most part, I wouldn't say all of them, but for the most part, they're going to dive in themselves. And our congressman that I'm aware of and U.S. representatives went to bat for us. And so we don't really have that kind of issue here statewide. I'm not happy with some of the politicians and how they acted, but I'm not going to discuss that tonight. I'm trying not to say anything negative or call names right now, because I don't want to be the one person that ticks somebody off and causes them not to help the people that truly need it.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we only wanted to have you on here for about 15 or 20 minutes so me and Ed can rail on them after you get off here.
Yeah.
I'm just, I just watch the videos and I'm like, man, how long is it going to take to rebuild all these bridges and roads? Like,
okay,
it's going to be
the biggest bridge that went down here in my county, called the Kinser Bridge. It was named after a war hero that dove on grenades during the war to save some other soldiers. The Kinser Bridge is the largest one that went down. It's already been contracted out to a local contractor, I'm told, and it is required to be rebuilt by December of 2025.
Yeah, I mean, that's a year and some change.
Yep. And so, and that's multiple bridges, man. I don't even know the total number. Well, Interstate 26 from Irwin, Tennessee to Asheville, that shut down indefinitely. Interstate 40 that goes from Newport over to Asheville, that shut down indefinitely. So everybody's having to go through the mountains to get anywhere, you know.
So on the hound end of it, do you have any idea? I mean, did a bunch of people lose dogs in this?
I don't think a bunch of people lost dogs. I did hear of one guy that I was told lost 8 dogs. They were in a kennel, I think, when it hit him. And I don't have any details on that. That was just information passed along to me from the Carolina side. I can't confirm that. And, you know, here's something I want to say about that. A lot of people got negative and raised a ruckus. Well, why did you let that happen to your animals? They don't understand that at 7 p.m. Friday night, it looked just like the average high river. By 12 o'clock, it was the greatest natural disaster that ever hit the Southern Appalachians.
Yeah.
There was no way for us to know what was going to happen and conceive of it, because it's never happened ever in the history of recorded history. I mean, when you're in a house that there's never been water in your yard, and 4 years later it's up to your second story and you're knocking the windows out to try to get in a boat.
Yeah.
You
can't
don't
prepare
think
for
that's
that.
ever going to happen.
No, you can't prepare for that.
No.
I mean, for
No,
anybody. Go ahead.
And when it does happen, you ought to have mercy on the people, not scorn.
Yeah, and you know, it might sound hard, and some people might take it the wrong way, but in a situation like that, dogs are not going to be the first thing you're thinking about. You're thinking about, you know, your family. You know,
You're literally running for your life, and you don't know which direction to run, because the water's never been in those places before, and you don't know where it's going next because it's never been where you can see it's at.
Yeah.
Was it like a tidal wave type? I've seen some videos where, you know, water just rushed in like it came out of nowhere.
Well, somehow, and I can't confirm this, but the talk here is it basically stalled over the mountains between Irwin, Tennessee, and Spruce Pine, North Carolina. 20 inches come down on the Tennessee side, 30 inches come down on the Carolina side. And then that gathered steam coming down the sides of those mountains. You know, how fast was that water coming out of those hollers? Because if you come to East Tennessee, the mountains are like a cow's face. So it's coming down those mountains, you know, like a steamroller, and building up. Every time it hits another stream and joins with it, it gets that much larger in volume. And then what happened was, when it first bottomed out above us, it was a great big farm plain. So it all spread out probably a mile wide. And then when it got down to my county, it funneled back up into a chute. So the church that I pastor is 500 yards from the Nolichucky Dam. And on a normal day at its highest level, it takes about 640,000 gallons of water per second. Last Friday night, it was 1.2 or 3 million gallons per second. They told us that it was almost double the volume of what Niagara Falls takes that come over that dam. And that dam was built in 1912. 1914.
I read a thing in 24 hours. There was more water came over Nolichucky than goes over Niagara Falls in, I think it was like a year period.
Yeah. When you cross the bridge there at the dam, and I know you've seen it several times, if you look up the river across the dam, it doesn't look much different. But if you look down the river where it used to be woods and dirt banks down the river, now the trees are gone, the grass is gone, and all the dirt's gone, and it's rock bluffs.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's literally no way to prepare for that kind of water. You know.
No. So
I mean, water's probably the most powerful force on this planet. It doesn't get enough credit.
I wanted to tell before I get off, I wanted to tell the Houndsman XP folks that some of the dog food that was sent went to the Boone McCrary family to take care of his dogs. Boone was a local houndsman.
That's awesome.
And Friday when we first started realizing there was going to, be a higher water than expected, Boone stopped by the house about 2:30 to get one of those Trump hats, and he's a nurse. And we were talking about what was going on up in Irwin. There were some nurses caught on, or hospital employees caught on top of a roof, and they were trying to figure out how to get them out. We were just dumbfounded that water would be that high at a hospital. And they brought in Black Hawk helicopters and rescued them. And Boone was telling me, he said he always called me Mr. Jones. He never called me by any other thing. And he said, Mr. Jones, he said, I thought they would call me into work. He said, I thought they would send some extra patients down here and I would be at work. And I could tell it was bothering him, that he wasn't in the middle of helping people. About an hour after he left here, I saw on Facebook that he had said, I've got my boat hooked up, and does anybody need help? Well, somehow he found out a guy was stuck on the roof of a house above a place called Bird's Bridge. And he launched his boat from a place in a community that had floodwater already in it. He backed up on a street to floodwater, I think. And he launched his boat, which had a jet motor on it. And when he got out in there, I'm told that it clogged the jets up. And he lost power. It floated him down the river, him, his girlfriend, and a dog, and hit the side of the boat and jerked him up under the bridge. Well, his girlfriend, the current took her into some trees, and she got a hold of a tree, was later rescued. The dog perished, was found near the boat, and then Boone was found about 4 days later, I think. He was obviously deceased, but he was a competition coon hunter, and he bear hunted some. And so I talked to his mom at the funeral home, and I told her that I was sending the remainder of what was left of the dog food to take care of his dogs.
It's a good place for it.
Yeah, that's rough.
I thought Boone would appreciate knowing that the hound people took care of his dogs, and thought the hound people would appreciate knowing they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, you talk about the spirit of the whole thing and the spirit of the people and everybody rising up. It took me less than 5 minutes on a phone call with Chip Kozier from Elite Nutrition. They're the largest distributor of Joy Dog food. And took me less than 5 minutes. He said, let me make a call. He says, I'm not sure if I can get it done today. In less than 10 minutes, he called me back and said, how much you want? And sent that dog food there. More dog food on the North Carolina side, plus 3 tons of horse feed.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
It's truly incredible. Yeah. Truly incredible. They pulled into our church with 2 pallets of dog food. Of course, we don't have a warehouse or forklifts or nothing, so every item we loaded or unloaded was by hand. And so I had some teenage boys and some other people in the church that were there that day and helped me carry that dog food in.
Yeah. Who was that? That was one of the sheriffs from. What county was he from? He's the dealer in that area, and he brought it over to you. Did you catch his name?
I don't remember his name.
Well, he's the sheriff.
I've been on the phone. Okay.
He's the sheriff up there at Pike. Where's Pikeville at in Tennessee?
It's down toward Cookville area.
Yeah.
Below Knoxville. Yep.
Yep, that's where he's from. So,
well, I know it meant a lot to me to know those dogs would be taken care of, and I truly appreciate every single person that gave and donated and the whole 9 yards. Let me just say this one last thing, and I'll get off here. I want to reiterate that all needs might not be met. There might be places that need some things that I'm not aware of. I'm sure there are. What I'm saying about needs is only in reference to the contacts I have personally.
So what do you guys need? I mean, is it anything that people can provide now, or is it just manual labor and machinery and?
Well, Ed, as a preacher, you always hesitate. Well, not all preachers hesitate to say this. Some of them's whole life's built on this. But the only real way to help people now is manual labor and cash. But I don't go anywhere asking for cash. I've had people send money, and we've been distributing that. And I've told Chris this Monday morning when we had the ability to do it. Me and my church treasurer went door to door writing people $250 checks. And we started right beside the church, the closest people, and just worked our way out from that. And the last count I had, we'd written a little over $10,000 in checks, $250 a family, just to get some cash in their pocket.
Yep.
And I know tomorrow, Thursday, I'm going down. There was a church that was washed out. Pastor and the youth pastor lost their houses, and I'm going to take some money down to them that was sent up by another church. And there's 4 or 5 other families that I haven't got to that I'm going to give the $250 checks to because we haven't got to them yet. And then as cash comes in, I'm going to give it away. I'm not saving supplies, and I'm not saving money. I'm trying to give it away as fast as I can.
Yeah.
what kind of manual labor type stuff is going on down there? If some guys showed up down there, what would they need to bring with them, or is there even a need for them to show up and do that?
I wouldn't know where to put them right now. I've been so heads down trying to distribute all this stuff. Once we got out and wrote the initial checks, I've been stuck on the phone and stuck handing out those supplies at the church the whole time. Yesterday was the first day I was able to get out and look around a little more, and I really couldn't tell you. I mean, I can tell you there's a lot of work being done. I just couldn't tell you where a team of guys should go.
Yeah.
Because the people here are covering up their neighbors.
Yeah.
You see, it's the way this worked was if you drove through the county, in a lot of the county, you couldn't tell nothing happened. It's all along the waterways. So your neighbor might have lost everything, and you may not have had any water at all on your place. So you're equipped to go across the road and help your neighbor, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I mean that's what, and
it's not like,
it's not like a hurricane, a direct hit hurricane where everybody's just affected.
right. And that's a good point, Ed, because that's the reason Appalachia was able to stabilize so quickly, is because it wasn't like everybody got wiped.
Yeah.
Well, man, I know. I mean, I have an inkling of what it's like. I think it was in 1984 here in Oklahoma, northeast Oklahoma. We got a record flood, and I mean, we just had 4 feet of water in our house, which is more than enough to mess up plenty. But
Mm-hmm.
I know the work. I mean, I remember just like you're talking when the sun come up and the water receded. I mean, we were everybody, all the neighbors, we were dragging out carpet and cutting drywall up where it got wet. And I mean, it went on. I mean, that kind of stuff went on for darn near a year. But I would imagine
Yeah, I mean, if it,
when water goes to the roof of a house, I mean, I would imagine those houses are a complete loss, aren't they?
if this kind of thing happens in a major city, the people in that city, they might not even have a shovel. But here where
Yeah.
we live, 4 of your neighbors might have a backhoe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it was really cool, and it kind of I don't know, people should pay attention to it, because, like, okay, so this thing happens, and from what I've seen, like, the churches became the hub of the community.
Yes, 100%. Of course, obviously, I'm prejudiced because ever since I become a Christian when I was 18, I've loved church. I know a lot of people's had bad experience with churches. I'm just fortunate that it's always been a good thing for me. But I will say this, all prejudice involved and aside at the same time, if the churches had not been where they were and did what they did, everybody would still be in a terrible fix, because the churches were really the linchpin in how all this got done, with the exception of the infrastructure that the power company and the water company did.
Yeah, I mean, it links the community, you know. It's a common ground. They know the people in the community. They know the community. They're going to know it better than, you know, somebody from FEMA who's not even from there, doesn't know the people, you know, doesn't know the special needs of other people.
Well, even
But I think
like the volunteer fire department. The volunteer fire department just above where I live here, one of their members called me last night and said that the boys in the fire department were using their own vehicles to go to North Carolina and take supplies up those hills and hollers. And, you know, they're like me. They don't have a lot of money, and they're running in this economy. Everybody's living week to week, and they didn't have gas money. Some of them didn't. So I had been sent $1,000 from a firefighter in Chesapeake, Virginia for diesel. And I went today to a Marathon gas station and bought about 20 $50 gift cards for gas and took them to the fire chief. And from our, you know, it's the money wasn't at my churches. It was sent to us. I just took it right to him and told him, here, you give these cards to your guys so they can keep running supplies.
yeah. Do we still have
a great story.
Okay.
I mean, it's a tragedy, but it's refreshing to hear a great story like that. It's patriotic. There's a lot of good that's coming out of this thing. Just like Ed asked about the churches being the hub of the community and things like that. I hope people are taking note.
Yep. Churches. Well, if I had to list the things that were the keys, one would be the power companies. The linemen are awesome. If you want to do something useful in your life and you don't know what to do, be a lineman.
Hey, they make good money too.
Yeah, the water people in our county were absolutely awesome. The volunteer fire departments, absolutely awesome. And the churches, absolutely awesome. Became the hubs of the supply system, brought from everywhere. And what the amazing thing was, nobody had to be told what to do by anybody smarter from somewhere else. There was no order. There was no plans. It was just common everyday people using common sense to help their neighbor. And you didn't need anybody. You didn't need the government. The federal government wouldn't have done nothing but monkey stuff up here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got a funny story about linemen. So I worked a lot of these different disasters and launching boats and working this backwater flooding stuff. And there's some places you get to and a lot of times the people aren't real happy. Most of them are. Most of them are like, man, I'm so glad to see you. You know, but some of them are like, where have you been? We've been stuck here for 10 hours and haven't seen anybody. But if you put a lineman in your boat, they're always happy to see you because they're coming to get your power.
Guarantee it.
Yeah. So when we were working Katrina, we actually took some linemen with us to go up. As soon as they saw that patch with that electricity bolt on it, man, they couldn't be happier to see us coming.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody likes to see them.
The coordination with these people and the average guy on the street too was pretty amazing. Like yesterday, I was at the church, and there's a warehouse behind the church that a guy uses to keep some stuff in. His name's Butch, and he pulled in, and I was blocking him. I was in his way, and he asked me if I could move, and I said, "Yeah, well, you know what's going on, Butch?" He said, "I got to get my boat out of the warehouse." He said, "The power company's trying to pull a line across the river, and they've asked me to bring my boat up there and pull the line across the river." See, I like to see that. I hate it when you have a centralized authority that thinks they know everything. I like to see common sense people say, "Hey, Butch, you got a boat? Pull that line across there." That dude runs that river. He's run that river for years. He's better off doing it than somebody, say, from, DC.
Yeah, in America, it used to be more like that. It seems like we get further and further away from that. We got a comment from one of you might know him. I don't know. Austin Wilson. He says he lives in North Carolina in Yancey County.
Yeah, North Carolina got it a lot worse than Tennessee.
Read it, Ed, because I can't see it.
Oh, I did read it. He was just saying that he lives in North Carolina in Yancey County, and they got hit.
Yeah, I got you.
Ask him what's the county seat of Yancey County? What town is he in, or closest to?
I don't. Well, if you're listening,
time there for him to answer, but
yeah, if you're listening, Austin, pop a comment up because I don't think I know how to just ask you from the comment section.
Well, I'm almost into the belly of the beast. I'm on the
Oklahoma City.
Right on the outskirts of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, it's a fun place.
So I'm just kind of chiming in here every once in a while, but this female I went and picked up.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sure you guys want to change the subject and finish your podcast out with some hound hunting stuff, so I'll hop off here. Thanks again to everyone who helped.
Yeah, we're glad you came on here and kind of gave us an update. We'll probably do it again as things progress.
Well, have a good evening.
Okay.
Thanks for coming on, Dale.
Okay, you there, Chris? As soon as TL jumps off, Chris goes dead. If you haven't noticed, we're not doing this in the best of circumstances. Austin got back to us, but after TL left, he said Burnsville. I don't know that part of the country at all. Yeah, Anthony, I don't know. We've been pretty cool here in Oklahoma. I'm not going to complain one bit. Y'all ain't been getting any of that. This morning it was when I got up this morning it was 52 degrees, and we are supposed to get in the 30s next week, I believe. Let's see if we got Chris back.
I'm in the dark.
Turn on your turn on the dome light in your truck.
This is probably the best view people have had of me in a while.
No, it's aggravating. It's just black. That's better.
Not any better. Is it?
No, it's shadowy. You're trying to copy TL.
He's a hard act to follow. He gets a little bit camera shy, because he doesn't want to sound braggadocious or, arrogant or anything like that. And he wouldn't tell you this, but he's a leader in his community. And
yeah, obviously.
Greenville is not a big town. It's bigger than what you might think. I mean, it's not a crossroads by any means, but it's not a big town either. And the whole thing about Appalachia is they've just been ignored and overlooked for as long as I can remember. Even when you read the old accounts and stuff, just throughout history, it's just one of those areas of the country that's kind of been overlooked.
It's been overlooked since the creation of this nation.
That's right. And the thing of it is, if anybody knows their history, I mean, that's where this country, it bulged out in Appalachia and then bust out over the Cumberland Gap and into Kentucky and just opened up the West. But it's just some of the people stayed behind, and with the great expansion of the United States and everything, they just got forgotten about.
Yeah, and they're probably not. A lot of people went there to be forgotten about. We won't even get into the Whiskey Rebellion.
Do what?
But we won't get into the Whiskey Rebellion from that area.
I don't know that much about that period, so it'd be a one-sided conversation.
Yeah, we won't have it. It'd be too political. We got a comment here from James Hudson. Oh yeah, everybody's starting to get those cool. Okay, you can't see it. That's right.
Yeah,
he's from Hound Tales podcast. I guess he's in Virginia, Central Virginia, and he said he's getting some cooler weather, and they're gearing up to do some dog hunting. I think this is the best time of the year. Like we all start to kind of get those cooler temperatures, and it gets in your brain. So tell us, Chris, we know you're traveling cross country, pimping dogs, but what exactly are you doing?
Did you say pimping dogs? That's
exactly
what I feel like I'm pimping dogs.
Yeah.
So I left southeastern Indiana yesterday morning. I got the backstory up a little bit. I went and got this Plott jip from Mike Colley.
We lost him mid-sentence. I'd carry on a story, but I don't really know what it is. I just know he's doing a massive trek. You back? Okay. Carry on.
Sorry. So I got back up a little bit. I had to run out to. I brought a jip home with me from Mike Colley's back in February after we were hog hunting, and our plan was to breed this female of my Cajun dog. Cajun comes from Mike's stuff, so Mike knows that bloodline real well, and since he does know it so well, I just was following his lead. It's like he said, "I want you to breed this dog, this female." Okay. So I've held on to her all summer. Brought her out to New Mexico in June. It was just shape and getting ready for the bear season that comes in August. and I left her with Shorty, and I left all of them out of here with Shorty, actually. So we've been waiting for this female to come and eat. She came and eat last Thursday. Well, Friday is the day that Cajun got killed by a bear there. So I was thinking, well, I wasn't even thinking about her. I knew she was in heat, and I kind of wish I hadn't told Mike that she was, because after Mike thought about Cajun being dead, then he started thinking, well, I'd like to still breed that Jip. And so we started talking about how we were going to get her back here. And it's 20 hours one way. So I said, well, Mike, if you want to meet me in Memphis, you can just ride with me out there. And so we kicked that around. We tried to work that out. At the same time, I was contacting a couple dog haulers, trying to figure out how we could get her back. And the dog that we're breeding her to now is actually in Tennessee. So we're trying to figure out how to get her back here, and we just couldn't find anything. And finally, I told Mike, I was like, I'll just run out there and get her and come back. So I left the house yesterday morning, and at 10 o'clock, I pulled into Paloma Ranch today at 11 o'clock local time, picked up the dog. I hauled the dog out to Shorty. I took my Indy dog out there to him. I had him at the house there, and I was coon hunting him and stuff like that, just so I had a hound around. And so I ran him out and did a dog swap, jumped back in the truck, and took off. I wasn't on Paloma for an hour, and I'm already back to Oklahoma City. So
you're taking the dog back to Indiana? The Jip?
No, I'm actually taking her to a guy over in Tennessee that Mike knows. I know him too. I just don't want to give his name out on the podcast. But
So
he's a serious bear. He's a good bear hunter, and he's got. Go ahead.
You're gonna drop her off and then head back to Indiana, or are you gonna wait around there?
Yep. Nope. I'm gonna drop her off. She won't be ready to breed probably until this weekend.
Yeah.
So with everything else going on, it's like, well, why didn't you stay out there a few days? Well, the reason I didn't stay out there for a few days is because the surgery my wife had. I just don't want to leave her at home that long, and she almost got in the truck and came with me, but she's just not ready to travel like that.
No, that'd be a bad idea.
Yeah. Answer some questions so I can check my map here.
We don't really have any questions. We don't really have any questions to answer, but if you're going through Oklahoma City, you better be looking at that map.
Yeah, make something up. Let me check.
Yeah, check. So yeah, shoot us some questions. I ain't been doing much. I've been starting a doggone coon. Our hog hunting has kind of trailed off a bit, and I kind of came to the realization that I'm probably too old to be hog hunting by myself at night. So I took a hound that I had been hog hunting, and she was doing okay, but she wasn't doing fabulous or anything. And I've showed her a couple coons, and she seems to be. I think she can be a better coon dog than she was a hog dog. So I can coon hunt by myself if I have to during the week.
How'd you pick her out what made you pick her out to decide you're going to start coon hunting?
It's fun. Well, it's funny because a couple weeks ago we was hog hunting, and me and Cody Jenkins was riding together. And as we were driving, I was telling Cody, I was like, man, I think I'm going to get me a hound pup and started on coon just so I can get out in the woods a little bit more. And he said, man, why don't you start that Farino dog? And I was hunting her that night. I said, I don't know. I'd rather start something fresh. And I think it might have been the second kick out. I don't remember. First or second kick out, she got in there, and she's never even offered to treat anything. And I've been hog hunting her for probably a year and a half. So she gets in there and she starts bawling around a little bit. And then here pretty soon she starts, you could tell, look, she was treed. And Tanner was out on a walkabout. And Cody looked at me and said, "Sounds like she's treed." And I was like, "Sure does." And then
Just-
about the time Tanner gets back to the truck and he goes, "She had a big old coon treed. She was standing in the woods. She looked pretty." I said, I told Cody, I said, "She heard us talking. she she heard us talking and wanted to do it." So at that point I had to just, start her.
So when nothing's
But
going on, Tanner just takes off walking through the dark.
oh yeah, he's real bad about that. And he always leaves his phone. Never has a radio.
Oh man.
The funniest was one night we was hunting this place that these people just have gates all over the place, and even inside their property they've got gates, and they're all padlocked. Well, Tanner takes off on his walkabout. He did take his phone that time, and me and Cody sitting back at the trucks. Here a little while later, he calls us, and he's like, "Y'all get over here. They're bayed." He starts telling us where he's at. So we start driving to him, and then we hit a gate, and then we realized he's got the keys, and he's like a mile deeper than us. And that was a pretty bad night. I think he kind of realized that night that you do have to prepare a little bit. You can't just take off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. How's that little dog bred? What's her background?
She comes from Bear, and she comes from a guy who combos his dogs, Bear and Hog. Uh, she's not. She's just a crossed up. It's all hound, but she's just a crossed hound. Walker blue.
What do you think she's got in her?
I would say I think it's Walker, blue tick, and I don't remember. I know it's those two. It's that dog that I took to bear camp last year that was in heat
Oh, really?
and ended up having to stay on the chain spot all week. Which I've got to bump her cycle because she did that again. She's in heat right now. She's been in heat for about a week and a half. So her heat cycles are right at bear season.
Well, this little Jip that I'm hauling right here, this is the second time I've had her. This is the first time I had her for 6 or 8 months last year, and she didn't come in heat. So I'm not sure. Hopefully, this kick starts her cycle. How are you gonna bump her cycle?
Well, I mean, I'll probably wait. I'll wait about 3 months, maybe 4, and then I'll try to knock her into a cycle. There's a bunch of ways to do it. I mean, the most surefire way is to give her a shot of Ludolized, like you use to bring cows in, like if you're getting AI them or whatever. But it's dangerous because it'll make them sterile sometimes. But I mean, I've heard a bunch of tricks, and I've tried a bunch of them on different dogs, and didn't really have much. From putting copper wire in their water.
Oh yeah, we had this conversation a few months back.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's a bunch of witchcraft, but I'm gonna try to bring her in.
Well, Chip Kosher was telling me about one of the products that they sell there at Elite Nutrition that'll we'll bring one in heat.
Really?
Yeah, I'll check with him and see which one it is. I need to figure that out too, because I'm actually going to get some of it and send it to Shorty to make this bitch come in.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we have to do from time to time. Most of it's fairly dangerous. Like I said, I mean, when you start messing with the dog's cycle, you can do a lot of damage. But yeah, I mean, because that was kind of what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, I'll start a coon dog here at the house, and then after I get it running coon good, hopefully try to get it ready for bear season. But I can't have, I don't want that if she's going to come in the end of September every year.
Yeah, that'd be rough.
Yeah.
But it is. How do you feel about breeding a dog that doesn't have regular heat cycles? I don't prefer to do it.
Well, man, I mean, really, I'm not a real big dog breeder, so I don't have any real strong opinions on that. I mean, it's definitely.
You got to breed one that doesn't have regular heat cycles.
You think you ought? Do I think you ought to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with it. I mean, yeah, and it's a little bit. It makes it harder, but I don't think physically. I don't think there's a problem with it.
Well, I'm just talking about passing on the. Is it hereditary? Can they pass it on? What do you think?
Well, I imagine they would pass it on.
Yeah. Might have to do some research. Maybe talk to. Might talk to. I've got a friend of mine that's not a geneticist. He works for the International Canine Sperm Bank.
Yeah.
Big deal. They've actually got franchises and different hubs all over the world and it's kind of an in-house thing. I need to ask him about that and find out what causes those heat cycles, how genetic, how much is it influenced by genetics, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I don't like is I've had some like cur dogs that just seem like they were constantly in heat.
Constantly in heat?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just like sporadic and often, and that was aggravating. But I don't really mind the sporadic.
The original mountain curs, some of them that I had, it wasn't like some dogs come in twice a year, some dogs come in once a year. Well, they were real sporadic too. You couldn't mark it on a calendar.
No.
Like my jazz female, I knew she would come in heat usually in March every year. March, April. She had one heat cycle a year. Other females I've had, if you didn't have a calendar, you could almost say what month it is when they come in heat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Chuck Reynolds said his dog cycles are all out of whack. And why do you think that is? I mean, how long have the dogs?
Chuck said they're out of whack.
Yeah, he said that his dog's cycles are just all out of whack. Which usually, if you've had the same set of dogs for a while, like here at my house, they typically all come in at the same time. That's kind of a common thing, is that female cycles get I don't know what the right way to say it is. They get in sync.
Well, that's even true. I had a buddy of mine. He ran the maintenance at the hospital, and he said all the nurses cycled at the same time too.
Oh yeah, women will definitely do that. Women that spend a bunch of time together.
Yeah. He said he could tell you 1 week out of the month he had plumbing issues.
Yeah, they'll definitely get in sync. Yeah, my house. I mean, it's just when one dog comes in, they all come in, which just makes it terrible. Got dogs barking and.
Yeah, the reason he told me that is because I had a female I wanted to come and eat, and he said, and he was a coon hunter too, and he's like, bring her over here and put her in the pen next to his female. And that might be why Cypress wasn't coming in heat, because I think I just screwed up, Ed.
Oh no.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I think. I hope.
Which way are you going?
Huh?
Which way are you going? You're taking 40?
Yeah, I'm taking 40. I'm supposed to be going to Fort Smith.
Yeah. Well, you're going to run right past me here. I'll probably be asleep by the time you come by here, but
Maybe I ought to just spend the night there.
I mean, you're welcome to.
How far are you above 40?
I'm about, it'd be about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's probably too far out of my way.
Yeah.
I'm on the fast track, man. It's like I've been listening to Jerry Lee. Is it Jerry Lee?
Yeah.
Eastbound and Down.
Oh, Jerry Reed.
Jerry Reed. That's who I meant. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the greatest country guitar players of all time, and he doesn't get a whole lot of credit for it. He's a heck of a guitar player.
I didn't know it.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, Tanner had it. So a couple years ago, Tanner had a Gyp. And she was one of these dogs just never came in heat, you know. And we needed to breed her. And me and Tanner tried every dadgum trick in the book. I mean, we tried from witchcraft to modern medicine, and it wouldn't work. And then I had her over here at my house. And then we finally gave up. I sent her back to his house, and in a week she was in heat. It's such like, there's almost no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how, I'll tell you how ridiculous it's become, though, all this technology and stuff. We talk about it with Garmin's, but we are dumbing ourselves down so bad. I can't even get through Oklahoma City when there's road signs everywhere without looking at a phone. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, we used to do it with maps.
Yeah, do it with maps. But once you got in the city, you knew, well, I want to keep taking 40 east because you planned ahead. Now I'm in a full panic because I didn't want to get off this, switch over to my maps instead of looking at. That's pathetic, you know it?
Oh, man, one time, it's been a few years back now, but I was down in Texas at a hog bay, and I broke my phone. I mean, just like demolished my phone.
I'm stuck.
So, I mean, I know how to get, I can drive from anywhere in Texas and get back home. It's no big deal. But I was like, so I started off back home, and I thought, oh no, I have to go through Dallas. Because I mean, Dallas is just one of those cities where if you miss your exit, you just added an hour onto your drive time.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't have a map because who needs a map? We got phones, right?
Right.
Oh man, it was brutal. Now I try to keep, we always had an atlas, in the glove box. Now nobody does.
Nobody. I don't have one in this truck.
Well, I mean, I wasn't at a big truck stop, but I stopped at a gas station before I got to Dallas because like I need to sit down and like plan this out. They didn't even have a damn map.
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, we were hunting on the Navajo. I always kept. Have you ever seen those gazetter maps? They're called the gazetter. You can buy them for any state. You could buy them for any state in the country. It was like a big atlas, but it showed. The gazetter showed side roads, county roads, and it broke it down by counties and ranges. And I mean, it was really detailed. I lived by that thing. I have one for, man, I think I have one for Kentucky. I have one for Indiana. I have one for Montana at one time. And so a couple of years ago, we were hunting out on the Navajo, and I forget what I was trying to use I might have been using my phone. I can't remember. I don't know that I had an iPhone yet. Yeah, I surely did. But anyway, we walked into Denny's there, and Gary Robertson was sitting there. He called me. He says, "Hey, meet me at Denny's." And I walked in, and Gary's sitting there studying a gazetter from his truck.
Yeah.
And he could see all of it. With a phone, you start scrolling out, and then you lose side roads. You start losing drainages.
Yeah.
Old school looking at a map, and I'm like, You know, how dumb am I?
That is a big downfall of the phone. Like you zoom out, because I like to get a big picture in my head. So like you zoom out, and then all the detail goes away,
Yeah.
and it's almost like, well, it's not zooming out. Really isn't even doing what I wanted to do.
I wonder if you can even get. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look and see if you can even get them. You used to be able to buy them at Bass Pro or at Cabela's, and they had a whole rack of them. Had a red cover on them.
Yeah, I
And
know. I bet you can order them still. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, you got to imagine their sales have plummeted.
yeah, yeah. But I showed my kids. I bet they don't know. I tried to teach them how to read a map, but they weren't having it. You know, it's like they don't get it. They look at a map and they're like, "How do you know where you're going with this thing?" And I'd have them up in the front of the truck, and I'd show them and tell them and explain it to them and stuff. But it's really difficult when you've got so much convenience at your fingertips.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, even if it was the old days when you had a map, it's without a navigator, it's still pretty tough. Trying to
Yeah,
unfold this map and not wreck while you figure it out. You almost had to have a navigator.
unfolding the map's not hard. Getting it folded back together is the hard part. I don't know how
Yeah,
many times I'd be sitting there looking at a map and thinking, "Well, I'm gonna fold it back up. I know where I'm going," and just end up throwing it in the back seat. It's like I'll
that's like
later.
yeah, it's like sleeping bags. You go buy one and it's like real small, and then you try to get it back in that original bag, and it's like this is impossible.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna look up the old Gazetter and see if we can still get those. Those would be good to have around.
Man, it would not, for like me, a guy for like where I'm at and where I travel, like I would be well ahead to have Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas,
Yeah,
Missouri, Kansas just in my glove box, you know.
yeah. Well, what's your recommendation for a stopping point east of Oklahoma City, Ed?
Let me think. Henrietta might not be a bad spot, and you won't be too far from there.
If I leave this dog in the back of the truck tonight, am I going to get the law called on me in Oklahoma?
Not in Henrietta, you won't. No, surely not.
Huh?
Surely not in Henrietta.
You don't think so?
No, and it's a big enough town. They've got hotels or motels. I mean, when you got dogs, motels are actually better, because you can back up right to your front door, hopefully.
I think I'm losing you anyway.
You're losing me?
Hey, man, I'm losing you.
Okay, we're just going to go ahead and call it quits here because we're kind of really, we just wanted to get on here with TL, and Chris is busy. We don't need to have him die or get lost. But we'll be back here next week. Chris ought to be at home, someplace stable, and we'll do something else. And y'all don't forget about TL. You can find that information to donate on Facebook on a bunch of different platforms. I haven't checked, but I'm sure it's at Houndsman XP podcast Facebook page. But they got it set up where you can just go onto Amazon. They have a list of things that they need, and you just pay for it, and then they ship it to TL, and he gets it distributed to people that need it. But it really was a cool thing. They got a lot of people got stuff they needed, and it was from Houndsman for Houndsman. I mean, it went to more than just for Houndsman, but it made us look better than we usually look. But we'll catch y'all next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you.